Jai Hind cadets, today we are going to study this chapter. The name of the chapter is From Trade to Territory. In this chapter we will be studying that how East India Company establishes power in India. In this chapter we will be studying East India Company comes east. Then we will be studying company rules expands. And the third one is setting up a new administration. East India Company, under this heading we will be studying that East India Company begins trade in Bengal, how trade led to battles, the battles of Plassey we will be studying under this heading. Company rule expands. In this we will be studying about how Tipu Sultan, the tiger of Mysore, means we will be studying about Tipu Sultan, war with the Marathas, the claim to paramountcy, the doctrine of lapse. Next, setting up a new administration. Under this we will be studying about the company army. So let's begin. The British originally came as a small trading company, but then they transformed to a territorial colonial power. Aurangzeb was the last of the powerful Mughal rulers. After his death in 1707, many Mughal governors and big jamindars emerged in various parts of India. Delhi could no longer function as an effective center. By the second half of 18th century, a new power was emerging, and they were the British. The British origin, this is the figure of Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb, his empire. This can be seen with the help of this map of India, this pink color shaded region. East India Company comes east. In 1600, the East India Company received a charter from Queen Elizabeth I, granting it the sole right to trade with the East. See the figure, the people, now they are coming to India. However, other European powers started entering the eastern markets. The Portuguese had already established in the western coast of India and had their base in Goa. By the early 17th century, the Dutch too were exploring the possibilities of trade in the Indian Ocean. Soon the French traders arrived on the scene as well. You can see from Europe, these people are coming after crossing Atlantic Sea, then crossing Cape of Good Hope, and then they reach to India. It was Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese explorer, who had discovered this sea route to India in 1498. So that time the means of transportation was waterways only, and see the location, the Portuguese who settled in Goa. This is the location. They came from Europe after crossing Africa continent and entering into Arabian Sea and then to India. Like this they reached to India. Again, this is the figure showing India, and the people who were coming from Europe, they were coming from by their ships. What attracted all these European trading companies? Means what are the reasons? The fine qualities of cotton and silk produced in India had a big market in Europe. Pepper, cloves, cardamom, and cinnamon too were in great demand, so there were fierce competition amongst the European companies. So, what did the East India Company do? Through the 17th and 18th century, they regularly sank each other's ships, blockaded routes, and prevented rival ships with goods. Trade was carried on with arms and trading posts were protected through fortification. This effort led to intense conflict with local rulers. See, in waterways, ships they were burned. People were fighting with each other. East India Company begins trade in Bengal. The first English factory was set up on the banks of river Hooghly in 1651. As trade expanded, the company persuaded merchants and traders to come and settle near the factory. By 1696, it began building a fort around the settlement. They also persuaded the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb to issue a farman granting the company the right to trade duty free. This is the figure. The company tried manipulating the existing privileges. They refused to pay duty to the private trade on their side, causing an enormous loss of revenue for Bengal. How could the Nawab of Bengal, Murshid Quli Khan, not protest? How trade led to battles. Through the early 18th century, the conflict between the company and the Nawabs of Bengal intensified. Murshid Quli Khan was followed by Ali Vardi Khan and then Sirajuddaulah as the Nawab of Bengal. Each one of them was a strong ruler. They refused to grant the company concession, demanded large tributes for the company's right to trade, denied it any right to mint coin, and stopped it from extending its fortification. Accusing the company of deceit, they claimed that the company was depriving the Bengal government of huge amount of revenue. They were undermining the authority of the Nawab. It was refusing to pay taxes, writing disrespectful letters, and trying to humiliate the Nawab and his officials. The company on its part declared that the unjust demands of the local officials were ruining the trade of the company, and trade could flourish only if the duties were removed. It was also convinced that to expand trade, it had to enlarge its settlements, buy up villages, and rebuild its forts. The conflicts led to confrontations and finally culminated in the famous Battle of Plassey. Now, Battle of Plassey. When Ali Vardi Khan died in 1756, Sirajuddaulah became the Nawab of Bengal. Sirajuddaulah asked the company to stop fortification and pay the revenues. After negotiations failed, the Nawab marched with 30,000 soldiers to the English factory at Kasim Bazar, captured the company officials, locked the warehouse, disarmed all Englishmen, and blockaded English ships. See, this is the Battle of Plassey. Finally, in 1757, Robert Clive led the company's army against Sirajuddaulah at Plassey and defeated the Nawab. The Battle of Plassey became famous because it was the first major victory the company won in India. The reason for defeat was the one of Sirajuddaulah commanders never fought the battle. They were the force led by Mir Jafar. Robert Clive had managed to get his support by promising to make him Nawab after crushing Sirajuddaulah. This is the main reason. So what happened after? After the defeat at Plassey, Sirajuddaulah was assassinated and Mir Jafar made the Nawab. Then Mir Jafar too protested. Then the company deposed him and installed Mir Qasim in his place. When Mir Qasim complained, he in turn was defeated in a battle fought at Buxar, that is known as Battle of Buxar of 1764, driven out of Bengal, and Mir Jafar was reinstalled. So this is Mir Jafar. The Nawab had to pay rupees 5 lakh every month, but the company wanted more money to finance its war and meet the demands of trade and its other expenses. By the time Mir Jafar died in 1765, the company decided to become Nawabs ourselves. Finally, in 1765, the Mughal emperor appointed the company as the Diwani of the provinces of Bengal. The Diwani allowed the company to use the vast revenue resources of Bengal. This solved a major problem that the company had earlier faced. Now the revenues from India could finance the company expenses. The British had to buy most of the goods in India with gold and silver imported from Britain. The outflow of gold from Britain slowed after the Battle of Plassey and entirely stopped after the assumption of Diwani. These revenues could be used to purchase cotton and silk textiles in India, maintain company troops, and meet the cost of building the company fort and offices at Calcutta. This we will be studying in next video. Thank you.